Hi everyone, my name is Miranda Whitaker and I use she, her pronouns. I am a third year graduate student within the cognition and neuroscience area. I also have an kind of emphasis and interest in quantitative psychology, so I have a whole host of advisors, which include Dr. Sarah Kramer-Gear and Dr. Janine Stefanucci in the cognition and neuroscience area, and then Dr. Pascal Dubuc, who is a quantitative psychologist within the developmental psych area. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about some neighborhoods in Salt Lake City and what it looks like to live here. I'll try and give you a range of kind of like the approximate price of living in some of these areas as well. So you can see along here, we have the Wasatch Mountain Range, and then there's all these kind of neighborhoods nestled in. The first neighborhood I am going to be talking about is Capitol Hill. So lots of kind of small single family homes here. There's some smaller apartment buildings and like duplexes and triplexes. I would put this neighborhood in the like not the cheapest but not unobtainable category. So I would say you're going to probably have a hard time finding a studio or a one bedroom for under $1,000 in this area. But if you have kind of that $1,000 to maybe $1,200 or $1,300 budget, you could find a place pretty easily in this area. Again, if you have roommates, you can definitely make this cheaper, but I'm just giving you that as kind of a general price, ballpark price point for what these neighborhoods tend to go for, like a studio or one bedroom if you wanted to or had the means to live alone. The next area I'm going to talk about is the avenues. So this is kind of nestled up against the foothills here. There tend to be lots of cute houses with kind of Victorian architecture. The streets in this neighborhood are very steep, so, keep that in mind if you are planning to bike or, just to keep in mind for like if you really hate driving in the snow. There are quite steep streets as it kind of like goes upward into the foothills, but very cute neighborhood, and I would put it in kind of a similar price range as Capitol Hill. Next, we have downtown, which also kind of encompasses this like central city area. So here you're gonna have much fewer single family homes and more kind of apartments. There are plenty of, like 1-2 bedroom studios in this area. Again, similar price point. I think in Salt Lake, kind of in general, living pretty close to the university, it can be somewhat hard to find something like a one bedroom or a studio for under $1,000, as Salt Lake has kind of experienced this tech boom, and housing has definitely been on the rise and gotten more expensive the last like 5 years or so. So kind of keep that in mind as just kind of the general cost of living in the area. Then the next kind of section of neighborhoods I'll talk about is like this 9th and 9th, Harvard Yale, 15th and 15th, and Sugar House. So all of these areas tend to have lots of, again, single family kind of cute homes. They tend to be on the older side, and then they're also kind of interspersed with some more commercial areas. So it's a nice mix of like commercial and residential. I live in the 9th and 9th area and really love living here. It's very walkable and bikeable, and so that's something kind of to keep in mind. These are all going to be pretty close to the university, and with public transit and biking, you can easily make it in. And again, similar price range here. You can definitely there's the rare deal here and there, but for a one bedroom or a studio, I would say there's not a ton under $1,000. And then moving a little more west here, so if we get into the Liberty Park Ballpark kind of granary district area, so this has seen a lot of development recently, and I will say it's one of my favorite bars that's in this picture, Water Witch. there's lots of cute like restaurants, bars, things like that. Quite a few kind of apartment buildings, and then also interspersed with some single family homes. And this area does tend to be on the cheaper side, and you're more likely to find a one bedroom or a studio in that like under 1,000, I don't know, between like 700 and 1,000 range here. So again, if you have roommates, you can make it cheaper, but I'm just trying to give you kind of a general ballpark. And then finally, I'm going to talk about a couple neighborhoods that are a little further from campus. Kind of Mill Creek, parts of Foothill, Olympus Cove. I would say is rather expensive and not a ton of rentals in that area. But Mill Creek and Foothill, there are quite a few places to live. So there's fewer single family homes in this area, but you can find some bigger places that are can be somewhat reasonably priced if you have roommates that you can live with. And I would say the biggest perk of these areas is that it's very easy to access the Cottonwood Canyons, which are going to be kind of up here near the end of the Wasatch Range that you can kind of see depicted in this photo. So this is a picture of Big Cottonwood in the summer, and then this is Little Cottonwood in the snow. So if you are into skiing or snowboarding, these can be really great neighborhoods as they have like really great access to those areas. So hopefully that is all useful. If you have any other questions about living in Salt Lake, feel free to email me. My information should be on the department websites, and I'm sure many other graduate students would be willing to kind of share their experiences with living in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yingtang. My pronouns are she, her. I am a third-year graduate student working with Dr. Carol Sansom in the social psychology program. My research interest is in intrinsic motivation. I'm also interested in exploring different factors that could influence the diversity in the STEM field. Today, I'm here to talk a little bit about what it looks like to live in Salt Lake City. Talking about living, I'm currently living on campus. And in addition to the rent here is pretty affordable, I really like the community here. We have weekly community events in the community center. Those events sometimes have themes such as different festivals from different cultures. It could also be about how to plan to buy a house in Utah. Sometimes it's just an opportunity for people to come together, to chat, to connect. I have a photo here of my fridge, because it have two papers, one is a plaza paper and a calendar. Those are prepared by our resident advisor that include information about resources and things to do on campus or in Salt Lake City in each month. I think it's a good way for us to know what's going on, and it's just pretty sweet. I also have I'm an international student from China, and to be honest, I will say that the selection of international groceries or international restaurants here in Salt Lake City may not be able to be compared to those like super big city like New York City, but I will say that there is an increasing number of different international market and groceries and restaurants here in Salt Lake City. I know it's Lunar New Year, so I have a decoration of Lunar New Year's in a Chinatown supermarket here, to just give you a snapshot about like how Lunar New Year is like. And I know as international students, sometimes just like a taste of our like home country could give us a lot of comfort to deal with the homesick. And yeah, that's my experiences. That's just my perspective of a short and brief description of living in Salt Lake City. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and I have my email address here. And looking forward to meeting you.
My name is Bailey Speck. My pronouns are she and her. I am a third year in the developmental area, and my advisor is Lee Raby. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about the public transportation system in Utah and some of the different public transportation options that students have that they can use anytime they would like, and how to access those transportation options. So Utah surprisingly has a lot more public transportation abilities and availability than a lot of people might expect, being that it's not a state on one of the coasts, it's more of a central state. However, there are a lot of both public options for transportation and there are some university-based options as well. In terms of public transportation, there are two primary modes of transportation that are available to the public and that are free to university students. So first is our public rail car, which is the TRAX system that we call it. And the TRAX mostly runs downtown Salt Lake City, but I know that there are some rails that go into some areas that are a little peripheral to the city. And there are track stations that are at the university very close to our building, and there are track stations all over, like I said. And that's free to students to use using their University of Utah student ID. So you don't have to do anything, you just get on the tracks and go to wherever your destination is. The second public transportation availability for students that's from the state is the UTA public bus system. And that is just these big red buses right here. And the bus system goes quite a few different locations, both downtown and in places that are kind of peripheral to the Salt Lake City area. And again, that's free with your university ID. You just scan it on a scanner when you get on the bus, and then you can pull the cord to get off wherever you would like. The public bus does also go to Park City, which is where some of the skiing options are. And there are certain ski routes that the bus does take. So you can go all the way from Salt Lake, all the way to the different ski locations, if that's something that you're interested in doing in the winter. And again, in terms of public transportation that's not based on the university, I would recommend this app. That's the Transit app. That will tell you the times and the distance away you are from a given TRAX or bus stop. And so I use that one a lot and I would strongly recommend it, but there are a couple different public transportation apps that you can use as well. And then in addition to those public transportation options, we also have some options from the university. So the university has their own shuttle system, their own buses, and that's what these ones look like. So if you happen to come to Salt Lake and you see these around, you'll know that this is for the university and these other buses are more public transportation. And the university shuttles, you don't need to have a UID or anything, you can just get on them. And they usually typically go around the university and the living areas that are closest to the university. So this is a screenshot of one of the shuttle maps that you can see. Primarily, it goes all the way around campus here, but there are some graduate student housing options that are also right along this university shuttle route, if that's something that would be important for you. And again, to look at these shuttle options, the university shuttles, you can use this University of Utah shuttle map app, which will tell you, again, the location of all the shuttles and how long it'll be before the next shuttle arrives. So there are a shockingly large amount of public transportation options available in Utah. I don't think that Salt Lake City is somewhere that you need to have a car to live. I do not have a car and I have been in our program for 3 years using these public transportation options very successfully. And a lot of students, even students who do have cars, tend to like to use some of these public transportation options because parking on campus can be expensive and it can be kind of difficult to find a good parking spot. So lots of students usually commute to campus using one of these options, if that is something that's interesting to you. And I think that concludes my time that I had to talk. So I hope you guys enjoy listening to everybody else's presentations today. And I hope you reach out to any of us if you have any questions about what it's like to live in Utah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jenna Alley. I use pronouns she, her, and they. I am a 6th year in the developmental area working with Lisa Diamond. And I am here to talk to you about owning a dog in Salt Lake and getting a dog in grad school. That's Lavender. Lavi. Hi, say hi. We just got back from the park, and I'm here to tell you about all the wonderful places that you can take your dog in Salt Lake. So I am going to put up a little slideshow thing. Okay, so my dog's name is Lavender. She's now staring at me. And I think that Salt Lake is an absolutely wonderful place to have a dog. There are endless options for your dogs in terms of the type of park, the kind of environment that you take them to. So over here, Tanner Park is a really awesome park in the city that people like to go to. It's off leash, but it's fenced in. So it's kind of for those dogs who want to be off leash, but you don't really trust in the wilderness off leash. Bonneville Shoreline is, I guess both of these pictures are at Bonneville Shoreline, actually. It's a really awesome park that it's off leash. Well, it's technically on leash, but nobody does that. So it's off leash, and it's really open and vast. And so your dog can like really let loose and run around and enjoy themselves. Liberty Park is a park really kind of in the center of town, and it is a wonderful park. There's a lot going on there. There's, what are those things called? Farmers markets, and there's like craft sales and things like that every weekend. It's on leash, completely, fully on leash. So if you have a dog who prefers to be on leash or needs to be on leash, Liberty Park is a really great place to go. Lindsay Gardens and Herman Frank Dog Park are more of the kind of like standard stagnant dog parks, as I say, where you kind of just like let your dog go. It's fenced in and they all just kind of run around and have a good time. Aside from dog parks, there's a ton of trails that you can take your dog on. Tanner Park is kind of a trail, and Bonneville Shoreline is kind of a trail where you can get your exercise too. But there's also a bunch of canyons that you can take your dog in. Mill Creek Canyon is the best, in my opinion, to take your dog in. It's got tons and tons and tons of trails, easy and hard. It's off leash on odd days and on leash on even days. So you kind of like get to choose your own adventure. If you have a dog who's a little bit more reactive and needs to be on leash, you go on the on leash days. If you have a crazy dog like me, you go on the off leash days so you can wear your dog out and actually get your work done. Ness Canyon and Ferguson Canyon are also really wonderful canyons. They're off leash at all times. They really only have like 1 to 2 trails, but they're really, really fun. Also, in terms of restaurants, I know that there are a ton of restaurants that have patios that allow you to take your dog to. There's also Sugar House Park, which is in Sugar House, clearly, which I guess would kind of be closer to campus. That also allows dogs completely on leash. You know, the possibilities are just never ending. I got a dog during grad school pre-COVID, and it was really awesome. You know, our schedules are just really flexible. And so I could take the dog out in the morning, do some work, and then go back to campus in the afternoon. It's all really wonderful. Lots of people have dogs. You know, the picture of my dog with the other dog, that is Luna, who was a puppy when Lavi was a puppy. Somebody in the program also got a dog. So Salt Lake is great for dogs. It definitely helps keep you active during those stressful times in grad school because you have to take the dog out. But yeah, I know all about dogs in Salt Lake, all the parks. Lavender has gone through substantial dog training. So I also have really a lot of recommendations for good trainers in the area. So if you need any more information, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Hi everyone, my name's Jasmine and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm in my 3rd year of the program in the clinical area. I'm in the neuropsychology track and working in Dr. Euler's lab. I'm interested in cognition and psychophysiology. So I'm going to be talking about some different events that go on in Salt Lake City and also around Utah. So first is the farmers markets. So I go to these all the time, and there's a farmers market pretty much year round. There are a ton of vendors from local farms and ranches. There are artists, usually food trucks and restaurants set up. So when it's outside, tents are usually set up all around a park. And so it's really nice to go outside and take a walk and see what everyone is selling. So in addition to the farmers markets, there are also a lot of other kinds of markets for artists and vintage and antique vendors. So for example, I always find cool art at the urban flea market downtown. And it's nice to support local artists and businesses, and this is a really fun way to do it. So another thing I like to do is go to free fitness events. So there's almost always a free yoga class somewhere, like here in front of the Capitol building, which is really beautiful. There are also yoga and beer events where you can go and take a free yoga class and you can buy a drink. They sometimes have yoga classes on top of the public library, which is really awesome. It's also cool to go to Pilates classes, bar classes. I've seen dance classes going on. So it's really fun to sign up for those things, and they're usually free, which is really helpful. Next, there's the Utah Arts Festival, which is downtown every summer. So there are all sorts of events, from dance shows that you can buy tickets to, or even just random dance shows outside, like people breakdancing. There are visual art galleries, live music, food trucks, and there's always lots of people who come out. So it's fun to be outside and see everyone. And lastly, there are a ton of music events and festivals in Salt Lake City and also within a couple hours drive. So these are just a few of them. Of course, COVID has thrown off some of these, but I think most of them should be back this year. And these are really awesome because they're typically outside and with the backdrop of the mountains. And so it's really cool to see. So this is just a few of the events going on in Salt Lake City. It's a really fun place to live, especially if you like being outside. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email.
Hi, my name is Susan Brenner. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a third-year graduate student in the developmental program, and my advisor is Bruce Ellis. And I'm going to talk a little bit about all of the really great entertainment opportunities in Salt Lake City. So I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy, and luckily there's this really great comedy club in downtown Salt Lake called Wise Guys. They host so many different comedians from around the country, and they have some really big names come in, so you know you're getting like a good quality show. Most recently, I saw Fortune Feimster. I also saw Mark Maron, and both of those were really fantastic shows. The environment overall is also really great. It's generally respectful and friendly. The staff are really kind. They have fantastic food. It's generally American fare. You can go with your friends and have a nice meal and really enjoy the show. Tickets are also pretty reasonably priced, usually around $30 to $35. It may depend on the comedian that's headlining there, but generally speaking, really reasonably priced. They also have open mic night that's only like $5 to go and have an evening of fun. And sometimes they even do free shows, which is really cool. So overall, it's a great place to go. Another thing that's really cool is it's located in this mall called the Gateway. It's this outdoor mall with a ton of dining and shopping. So it's something that you can really make a day of that is, is just a fun time and a really cool activity to do. I also really enjoy live theater in general. I love Broadway shows. And there are a ton of different theaters in Salt Lake City, but one of the biggest theaters in downtown Salt Lake is the Eccles Theater. It's this gorgeous, like pretty newly built theater where they host all kinds of entertainment. Obviously Broadway shows. Most recently they did Hamilton, which was really cool, or that's what they're doing now. But they do music and comedy, really just like every type of entertainment. And when it comes to comedy, they have big names also, like Carol Burnett is going to be playing there. Also Hannah Gadsby. So all kinds of comedians, different types of music and dance. It's a really cool venue. And again, also kind of in the heart of downtown Salt Lake. So it's pretty easy to get to. There are also a couple opportunities that are free for University of Utah students, which is great. One of them is the Utah Museum of Fine Arts. It's this really great museum with a ton of different like contemporary and classical art that you can go spend an afternoon looking around. As I mentioned, it's free for faculty and students. So if you're really into art, it's a great place to go to hang out. You do have to make reservations to get in, to go ahead of time, but otherwise it's a really, really cool experience. There's also the Natural History Museum of Utah, which has all these really cool fossils. As you can see, itself is a really cool building, also free to students. And what's nice is that it's on the University of Utah campus, so it's really easy to get to. So overall, there are just a ton of different activities that, students can do for free or for very cheap. Really, like no matter what your preferences are, no matter what type of entertainment you like, what type of music or dance or art you like, there's something for you in downtown Salt Lake City or around the U. So overall, there's just so many great entertainment opportunities here.
Hi everybody, my name is Katie Weinstein. I'm a second year developmental student working with Dr. Liz Conrad, and I use she, her pronouns. I wanted to mention some of the things that I like to do outside of school because it's super important to have a life outside of school. So I really enjoy art, and so on the weekends I really like to go to different art museums. My favorite one is definitely the Fine Arts Museum on campus, which is free to get in as a student. You just show your student ID card. And it's also really nice because it's super accessible being on campus. I usually just take tracks from my apartment up there, or on the weekends, parking on campus is free, and so I will drive. I really like the Fine Arts Museum because of how many different exhibits they have. They have these really cool murals, which are local artists, and those cycle out pretty frequently. And then they have a bunch of different multicultural art. There's some African art, there's early European art, art outside of Asia, etc., etc. So you have a lot of different things to look at. And I've also been to some other local museums that are more private, but a lot of them are also still free. And those are just kind of scattered throughout the Salt Lake area and kind of beyond that. So, however far you're willing to drive or take tracks, because tracks does go pretty far. I've also been to the Van Gogh exhibit, which is a traveling exhibit, but that was a really great thing to be able to do. Living in a big city, a lot of fun exhibits like that do come here. I'm not from a big city and didn't go to college in a big city, so it's really fun to live in an area that a lot of different artists are coming to. I've also been to a couple of different concerts. So for musical artists, I've been to like the Galavan Center, the Depot, the Complex. All of those are really great music venues. And the Galavan Center specifically has this concert series that goes on during the summer. And it's a nice outdoor area, and you get to pay a one-time fee, or you can pay per concert, but you can pay this one-time fee and be able to go to like 12 different concerts throughout the summer. So, really awesome thing to do over the summer. I've also been to some comedy shows, which there are a couple of comedy clubs throughout the Salt Lake area and beyond, and those are really fun. They are a cost, but they're usually pretty inexpensive, like less than $30 per ticket. I've also been to the aquarium, which is more towards Draper, which is about 20 to 25 minutes south of here, and tracks does go down there, and you do get a discount as a student. There's also the Hoggle Zoo, which is just right outside of the downtown area, which is also really fun to go to if you like animals. I've also been to a lot of sporting events, so I really like going to Jazz games. The Utah Jazz, they play in the Vivid Arena, which is just outside of the downtown area, and I pay like $20 or $30 for the nosebleed seats, and it's super fun. as well as the Utah games. So I really enjoy going to the volleyball games and gymnastics meets, which you actually also get in for free with your ID card. So that's a little bit about what I like to do, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Hi everyone, my name is Stacy Brothers. I am a fourth year in the program here at the University of Utah. My pronouns are she, hers. My research area is I'm under Dr. Yaramasuki and am focused on neuropsychology. Particularly, I'm interested in kind of like adapting ways that we assess individuals to be more culturally appropriate for a variety of individuals. And I primarily work with older adults. So, whoops, I'm basically just going to be talking for a little bit on what it's like to be vegan in Salt Lake. So there are a bunch of vegan restaurants and restaurants that have vegan options in Salt Lake, which I think is awesome because then I get to eat places. So these are 4 of my favorite bar type restaurants that have really good vegan options. None of them are strictly vegan, which works for me because a lot of my friends aren't. So then it gives them options too when we go places without making them feel like they have to eat vegan. So Green Pig is one of my favorite options. It's right downtown. They have really good burgers, wings, chicken sandwiches, all of that are vegan. And they also have a really nice rooftop patio. And this is the view from that patio. It kind of overlooks the south of downtown and the mountains a little bit in the background. And so it's also really nice with COVID and everything, during the warmer months, being able to go onto that patio. Then Handlebar is kind of in the northern part of Salt Lake, kind of close to the capital. And they have vegan pretzels that are shaped like handlebar mustaches. And the idea behind the restaurant is kind of about cyclists. So they have a bunch of old bikes hanging around everywhere. They have a bunch of places to park a bike if you ride a bike there. In general, I'd say Salt Lake's pretty bike friendly. If you're trying to get around without a car or be more environmentally friendly. They also have a really nice outdoor patio. You can kind of see the bikes hanging there, but they have heaters out there as well, the flame ones, which is really nice because you can go out there during the colder months or when it's a little bit chillier. So then, even if COVID's going on, that's totally fine. You can still go enjoy hanging out with friends and everything outside and not have to worry about, if people are uncomfortable inside. And this you can see kind of nestled in the mountains, and you can see some of the mountains in the background there. Piper Down and Trolley Wing are also great. And yeah, so those are some of my favorite bars. So some of my favorite bakeries and cafes. So City Cakes, they have a bunch of different baked goods. You can get cakes made there. They have pastries, all sorts of things. They also have some prepackaged meals. So they have mac and cheese and different types of sandwiches and all of that are all vegan as well. So that could be a really nice option. Monkey Wrench is downtown and they have all vegan ice cream. So they have a bunch of different flavors. They rotate through, bring in new ones, all of that. And it's a nice place in the summer. You can go grab an ice cream downtown and then walk around downtown and kind of look at all the things that are going on. And then Yums is one that I recently discovered. It is a little bit further towards the south of Salt Lake, and they have a decent bit of baked goods, but mostly they have a lot of really great entrees. I recently went there for the first time and was really surprised by how many entrees they had and how good the entrees were. I had their tacos and their tacos were amazing. So yeah, so they have a lot of vegan, I think they're all vegan. So obviously if you're vegetarian or anything that would work as well. And then for Buds, that's a sandwich shop kind of in Central City, which is right between where campus is and downtown. And they have really great vegan cheesesteaks and vegan pesto sandwiches, all of that. So they have a lot of really great options. And then when it comes to shopping, so if you're looking to kind of shop more sustainably, Hello Bulk is one option. They have a lot of different bulk items. You can take in different containers if you want to fill up on shampoo, conditioner, body wash, body lotion, household cleaning products, like they have all of that there, as well as some bulk food items, like baking items like flour, as well as like nuts and seeds, all of that that you might need or want. And the Animalia, I think they have like a similar selection to Hello Bulk, but they also have some other items. So I think that they sell like secondhand clothes and then other products as well that are like supposed to be more sustainable, like some of those cups and everything there. So both of those can be really good. I found really nice products at both of them. And so yeah, so in general, I think Salt Lake is a great place to be if you're vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free. My dog is here on the right, and you know, we also really enjoy how like accessible the outdoors are to Salt Lake. All of these little walks that we're on here, like where she's in the outdoors, are all places that we can walk to from our apartment. So we really enjoyed being able to just like very quickly access like mountains and different walking trails, even if it's just like the loop that goes around the Capitol is really nice. So yeah, and you know, as far as restaurants go, like I barely even scratched the surface. There's also like vegan donut shops, there's a vegan diner, all of that too. So there's a bunch of options if you're looking for vegan food in Salt Lake. So good luck with all of your interviews, and I hope you all have a great interview season.
Hello, my name is Silas. I'm a second year here at the University of Utah. And if you like sports, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about our athletics that we have here on campus. And then also some athletics that we have around the Salt Lake City area. You might have heard of the Utah Jazz. That's a National Basketball Association team. They're really good, super fun to go and watch, really tight-knit fan base. Same with the Utah Utes. We also have Real Salt Lake, which is a soccer club. Almost went British and said football. And those are really great too. Outdoor stadium. The stadium's probably like 10 miles south. So everything's pretty close to the downtown and the university. We also have this minor league team called the Salt Lake City Bees. They are a baseball team, and super fun to go and watch those games. It's during summertime a lot, so it's really nice weather and great fans. The stakes are a little lower at those games, but they're super fun and relaxing to go to. One of the coolest opportunities I want to share with you guys is we have this fan club here at the university called the MUSS, MUSS. I think technically it's part of our fight song, but we sort of colloquially use that acronym to refer to it as the Mighty Utah Student Section. And to be part of the MUSS, it's basically just a fan club that includes students and also alumni, and you just have to be a student or an alum to join. I believe there's a small fee, but it gets you access to tons of stuff that you wouldn't get if you weren't part of the club. You can go to things like special tailgates during football season and other kind of cool access like that. You get free t-shirts, free gear, things like that. And I'm actually going to go ahead, before I do that, actually, I'm going to show you where a lot of the MUSS action goes down, which is here at our football stadium. This is Rice Eccles Stadium. And on game day, like you probably imagine, it is quite poppin'. And I'm going to share my screen really quick to show you guys some pictures. So I'm actually going to start back here. So this is the emblem for the MUSS. It's really easy to find if you just Google Utah MUSS. You can go to the webpage and then you can join from there. And it gets you free access to any University of Utah athletic event. You don't have to be part of the MUSS to get free tickets. I have just walked into the arena before, being part of this fan club, and you can just show your student ID and they can print you off a ticket for free. Here's just another picture of our stadium. It's really great during game day. It's just a great atmosphere. Here we have the John M. Huntsman Center. So this is where we play all of our basketball games and volleyball games. One of the coolest things about being in this arena is the student section gets to be up really close to all the action. And you can see some of that in these pictures right here. So students usually need to sit in the 1st through 15th row at all these games if they're part of the MUS. And you can just see how close to the action you get at these sporting events. It's really fun because you're kind of immersed in this energy that the rest of the players are immersed in. This is a cool picture from our track during a sunset. I'm gonna go back a little ways. Actually, this guy is a student here at the U, and he gave one of the best renditions of the national anthem I've heard. And honestly, it was killer. Yeah, here's a video from a Utah Jazz game. This was during Star Wars night, so some of you might recognize this music. So yeah, really, really great stuff here at the U. That's probably going to do it for me. I'm stoked to possibly see you guys at some of these games and wish you the best.
Hi everyone, my name is Becky Neufeld. I use the pronoun she, her, and I'm a second year in the social area at University of Utah. So I'm going to be talking about kind of some outdoors activities that exist in Salt Lake, aside from just like the amazing hiking that we have near us. If you have any questions for me after this presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out using my email, which is on the slide, becky.neufeld121@gmail.com. Or if you have questions about anything else in our program, I'd be happy to connect, so don't hesitate to reach out. So the first thing I want to talk about is Salt Lake City Parks. So it's actually like a pretty big city downtown, but it's really nice because there's a lot of parks where you can get away from the city or the roads, and they have like nice trails that you can walk on or bike, or lakes that you can sit by. Some of my favorite ones are Liberty Park. That's the one that's pictured kind of up here with the trees. It also does events at Christmas where they decorate the park with lights. They had like a Christmas lights maze last year, which is really cool. It's the picture of me and my partner at the bottom. There's also Sugar House, where Sugar House is really nice because it has a nice lake you can sit by, and then pavilions that people rent out for parties or events. During COVID, it's a really nice place where sometimes the department will have events because it's outside. There's also Memory Grove, which has like some really pretty hiking. I listed a couple here, but there's like 103 in total near Salt Lake. They sometimes have food trucks on the weekend or different events during the holidays, so they're a really nice way to get away from the city. I also want to talk about kind of some other more structured outdoor activities, so I'll touch on Tracy Aviary, Hogle Zoo, and Red Butte Gardens. Tracy Aviary is actually in Liberty Park. It's like towards the corner. There's the tennis center where you can go play tennis, like basketball courts, and then Tracy Aviary, which is like this it's actually pretty big. It has a bunch of different exhibits with different birds, and they take really good care of their birds, which is really nice. They have amazing flamingos, and in the spring you can go sometimes, and the flamingos have chicks, which is really cute. They also have a lorikeet feeding, which I think is like $4 a person, and you get to go into the exhibit and you get these little cups of nectar, and they come like land on your head and land in your hands, and they're super cute and really fun to get to play with. Yeah, and then I'll also talk about Red Butte Gardens, which is really nice. It's pretty close to campus. You can walk there. It's a little bit of a walk, but once you get there, it's really pretty. It has a bunch of plants that are native to Utah, which is nice, and just like some really beautiful hiking you can do. A lot of the time, if you go during the week, there aren't a lot of people, so it's really nice. And I'll also talk about Hogle Zoo. It's right next to my house. I really love going there. But it's really cool. They have some like animal feedings that you can do there. It's a picture of me feeding their elephant. Her name is Zuri. She's 7 and she lives with her mom, Christy. They also have like a giraffe feeding and like events during Christmas. They have like a Christmas light set up all over the zoo. They also do the same for Halloween. Down here they decorated one of the bridges with like bats. It was really cool. They also have a lot of babies, so they've been through programs designed to help with endangered species. They've been breeding colobus monkeys. So there's actually 3 babies. This is when their baby Maisie was born last year, and then Pepper is about a year old and is like watching her. And they also have baby zebras. This is Scooby with his mom. So those were kind of just some things that I wanted to share that I find really fun. I'm always happy to talk about other things near campus, or if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Hi, my name is Logan Call. I use the pronouns he, him. I'm a second year in the social area, and I am so excited to share with you information about the outdoors, hiking, and national parks here in Utah. I'm going to start out with talking about the outdoors and hiking and some nature areas that you can go to. In and around campus, one of the best things that we get for free as students is access to Red Butte Gardens. It's on campus and it's incredible. They specialize in these immaculate gardens that feature plants that are native and do well in Utah's climate. The Living Room Trail is a very popular trail among students and people in the Salt Lake Valley. It's about 2 miles up. It starts on campus. And then, as you can see, it's called Living Room because people have made these rock formation chairs out of the rocks up there. The Bonneville Shoreline Trail is incredible. It runs basically all along Utah's, northern Utah. Right here around Salt Lake Valley, it's a very easy walk, very easy hike. There are many trailheads that you can start and get off on, so you can go as long and as hard as you'd like to. And then Ensign Peak is a short hike up that gives you great views of downtown. In the Salt Lake Valley, one of my favorite hikes to do is Mount Olympus. However, it is really hard to do. It's about 4,100 feet up, but it gives you great views of the valley and beyond. Another one of my favorites is Donut Falls. It's down here in this bottom left picture. You can see the river coming down here and falling into this hole, which is why it's called Donut Falls. This is at the top of Big Cottonwood Canyon. So Big Cottonwood Canyon is one of 2 famous canyons we have here in the valley. There's Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons, and I highly recommend exploring both of them. Otherwise, in northern Utah, that's beyond the valley, one of my favorite things to do is go to Antelope Island, and that is because of the bison. I love bison. I think they're so cool, and so I go there all the time to see them. Bear Lake is incredible. It's up at the border of Utah and Idaho, and this picture from NASA shows just how blue the water is, and yes, it really is that blue. It's a very popular place to go in the summertime. I want to get onto the national parks, Utah's Mighty Five, as we call them. They are incredible. They are about $30 a piece to get into for a 7-day pass. So I recommend getting the National Parks Pass. You can get in for, it gives you access for a year and it's $80. So it basically pays for itself with three visits to a national park. So highly recommend. I'm gonna start off with my favorite national park, which is Arches. It's my favorite, and I got married there back in 2020. So here's this picture of my husband and our dogs at LaSalle Mountains Viewpoint. Of course, if you go to Arches, you're going to need to do Delicate Arch. It's incredible. However, in the summer, it's very busy and very hot. So I recommend doing it in the shoulder seasons, which is the spring or fall. And this is about 4 hours from Salt Lake City. Bryce Canyon is another incredible park we have. It as well is 4 hours from Salt Lake City. It is southern and central Utah. It's mostly consisting of overlooks and viewpoints that you can look on these rock formations that are called hoodoos, and they are incredible. This is one that you also want to do in the shoulder season. Well, actually, you could do spring, summer, or fall. In the wintertime, it gets a lot of snow, so that might not be the best time. Canyonlands is near Arches, so it's about 4 hours from SLC as well. You can do Arches and Canyonlands in the same weekend. There are 3 main areas from Canyonlands. Island of the Sky, the Needles, and the Maze. Island of the Sky is where all of these pictures were taken, and it is the most easily accessible and popular. The Needles is a few hours south, and then the Maze you can't access unless you have 4-wheel drive. I was actually here just a couple weekends ago, and so here is me at Mesa Arch, which is a must-do if you go to Canyonlands. Capitol Reef is probably our least popular and least known about park. It's about 3.5 hours from Salt Lake in central Utah, and it's still just as incredible as the other ones. One of my favorite hikes to do is Coab Canyon, and this is the view you get when you come out here at the bottom middle. I also enjoy doing Sunset Point, which is the top right, and then picking my own fruit in the fruit orchards. Last but certainly not least is Zion National Park. No, it's not Zion's National Park. Don't include the S. It's Zion National Park. And it is about 4 hours and 45 minutes away from Salt Lake. It's by St. George. Definitely something you have to see. The shoulder seasons or even in the wintertime is a great time to go here because summer is going to be hard to access. They require reservations to get on their shuttle buses to go up the canyon at that time. If you are a daredevil or like scary experiences, you can hike Angel's Landing. You can see in this picture here, it's about 30 feet along that ridge right there. So definitely not for the faint-hearted. Some other parks that we have, not in Utah, but they're in states nearby. We've got Great Basins in Nevada, Grand Teton and Yellowstone are in Yellowstone, and Mesa Verde and Black Canyon are in Colorado. All of these are within distances that you could easily do in a weekend. So if you have any questions or would like some resources for the outdoors, please reach out to me and I would be glad to help.
Hello everyone, I'm Holly and I use she, her pronouns. I am a 4th year grad student in the CNS area and my advisors are Sarah Creamer-Gare and Janine Stefanucci. In this video, I'll give you a brief overview of the winter sports and recreation that you can do in Utah. So the winters in Utah are usually pretty sunny and they're fairly mild in the Salt Lake Valley. Like for instance, I rarely have to brush snow off my car. We get a rare snowstorm and then it disappears in a few days. But the great thing is I can be surrounded by snow in the mountains within an hour drive. So skiing and snowboarding are popular activities here, and you don't have to already know what you're doing to get into them. So for example, I personally snowboard, usually at Brighton Resort, which is pictured here, but I hadn't snowboarded at all before I came here. So there's a lot of resorts you can choose from. There are 11 ski resorts within an hour drive of Salt Lake. And if you don't have a car or don't want to drive in the mountains, there are multiple resorts that use a ski bus that you can ride for free with your student ID or ski pass. So although skiing and snowboarding are definitely fun hobbies, they can be expensive. Luckily, there are options here that make them more affordable. So one example is the ski and snowboard club on campus called One Love, and they provide discounted student passes to different resorts, both in Salt Lake as well in other states. So for example, I usually get the Brighton season pass, but there are also passes like the Icon Pass that give you access to multiple resorts in the area. Or you can get something like the Epic Pass, which will let you go to all the Epic resorts, which are outside in other states as well. And if you don't want to get a season pass, there are definitely options for other passes like multi-day passes or a day pass or night passes, which are cheaper as well. And if you don't have your own gear, that's totally okay. So there are a lot of gear rental shops around town that are reasonably priced, as well as the many opportunities to buy used discounted gear that's in great shape. And so, for example, here, one thing I love about Salt Lake is this thing called KSL, and it's a lot like Facebook Marketplace. And so here you can find a lot of good deals on equipment and really anything. If you want to buy plants, you can buy plants on KSL. If you want to buy skiing and snowboarding gear, you can find it on KSL. But there's a lot of other, secondhand stores and rental stores also in the area. And you can also see if you can borrow gear from fellow students in the department. So when I first started out, I borrowed a snowboarder from one of the other grad students here. And it was actually one of the other grad students here that also taught me how to snowboard. So definitely reach out to other people in the department. There are several grad students that get out and go skiing, snowboarding. So yeah, reach out and we definitely have resources. If skiing and snowboarding aren't really your thing, that's okay, because they're not the only things to do here in the winter. So you can do things like rent snowshoes from the university's campus recreation center, and you can go snowshoeing. Or you can just go hiking. There are definitely still hiking trails that you can access in the winter. And so pictured here, I have a time I went into this place called Donut Falls. That was a hiking trail in the winter. And then this other place called Mill Creek Canyon has some nice hiking trails that are accessible in the winter. But if snow just isn't your thing, that's okay too. You can stay in the valley and you can walk around all the parks and the city trails in the downtown area. So there's plenty to do in Salt Lake in the winter, and there's a range of options depending on your interests and what you want to do. And yeah, feel free to reach out with any questions that you might have, and I can see if I can answer them or direct you to someone who can.
Hi everyone, my name is Madeline Whitaker. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently a first year in the clinical psychology program, so I just started this past August. I work in the Heart Lab with Dr. Katie Baca, where we focus on health psychology, diabetes prevention, and relationship health. So today I wanted to just give you a brief overview of trail running in Salt Lake City. I imagine that probably in the rest of these little introductory videos, you've probably heard of several of the amazing outdoor activities that Salt Lake City has to offer, like skiing and climbing and many others. But trail running and hiking are definitely some of my personal favorites. And because Salt Lake City provides such great access to the outdoors, it's actually also really easy to find friends and groups to do these activities with. Personally, I have found it really important to have a life outside of the graduate program, and so being able to find trail running friends has been really integral to my well-being. If you do end up coming here to the U and want to get plugged into the trail running community, feel free to contact me. I'll include my email on the last slide. And if you want to find some of those groups on your own, I've been most successful going through social media like Facebook and Instagram. So I'll just start going over some of the places where you can trail run out here. There are endless options, so I'll just be touching the surface. And I'll start with some of the closer ones, and then we'll kind of move out. And I'll spam you with some really pretty pictures. So let's get started. So starting with the closest areas, we have the foothills and Mill Creek Canyon. So the foothills are actually right behind campus. There's a picture right here. So you can actually run to some of these trailheads within 1 to 1.5 miles from the psych building itself. Generally speaking, these trails are a little bit easier than some of the other canyons that we'll talk about today. And you can still actually run most of them in the winter because they do tend to get less snow. So this is one of my runs out there with the Wasatch Mountain Wranglers, which is a really fun trail running group. Mill Creek is also a super close canyon to campus. It's usually about a 10 to 30 minute drive depending on the trailhead that you're trying to get to. And Mill Creek gives you access to some really great views overlooking the city. This canyon is also super dog friendly, which is not true of all the trails out here. So if you do have a pet, that's something to consider. So you can see here we had a really big group. This was Women of the Wasatch, another great trail running group. We were doing Grander Peak, which is super fun. So moving on to some of the canyons a little bit farther from campus, we have the Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons. These guys are about 20 to 45 minutes away depending on the trailhead that you're going to, so they're still super accessible but will take you a little bit longer. They are protected watersheds, which just means that no dogs are allowed, which is a bit unfortunate. But they do tend to have taller mountains and higher altitude trails, which means that they can be a little bit harder to run, but they can also lead to some really spectacular views. And these are also the canyons where the ski resorts are located, so you may have heard about these in some of the other videos. So you can see here you can get some really beautiful wildflowers in the summer with some great alpine views, as well as some gorgeous alpine lakes. And then lastly, like I said earlier, your options really are endless out in Utah if you're willing to drive a little bit farther. So if you want to drive anywhere from like 1 to 4 hours, you can get to some other really cool areas. So like here is Ben Lomond. This is out in Ogden, so it's about an hour drive to the north. Or if you go about an hour to the south, you get to Provo and you can get to some really cool trails like Timpanogos, which is absolutely spectacular. And then if you want to drive a little farther, like 4 hours, you can get to some really cool desert areas like Moab. And of course, that's just the beginning. I haven't gotten out to all of these places, but within probably 4 to 5 hours, you have Jackson Hole in Wyoming, Big Sky in Montana, and Yellowstone. All of those are relatively easy weekend adventures if you want to explore even further. All right, guys, so that's it for me today. Thank you for coming along on my little trail running adventure. Like I said earlier, please feel free to reach out. My email is right here. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about trail running specifically, or just about the program and my experience with that. I'm always looking for new running buddies, so definitely hit me up if you want to join me out on some trails. Have a great rest of your day.
Hello, prospective graduate students. My name is Joshua Landvatter, he, him. I am a 4th year graduate student in the social area, specifically studying social health psychology with Bert Uccino. And I've been asked to talk about some of the collaborative experiences I've had here at, in this program and at the university. And I've been here for 4 years, but I also did my undergraduate here. So I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different researchers on campus. And for many that I have spoken to, they have come from across the whole country, and they often say that our research environment here is unique in the sense that it's very collaborative. To find people to volunteer their time and efforts towards research is actually unparalleled compared to many of the other places that these individuals have worked previously. And I can also speak to that for the most part. And I think partly some of it is due to being a medical, an academic medical center. So that opens up a lot of opportunities, different areas, or kind of an interdisciplinary approach to research. And especially in health psychology, that's kind of what we pride ourselves with. And so in the past, I've, for an example, in one study, I was working closely with the Department of Anesthesiology, Department of Psychiatry, in addition to the Pain Research Center at the University of Utah. And this is just kind of one example where we're working together towards a common goal. And that's not unheard of here. It happens quite frequently from my experience. And then as a graduate student as well, I've been able to work with a secondary advisor on a kind of a dynamical systems approach to blood glucose. That has been a really fascinating experience. On a current project that I'm in the process of developing, I'm working with another student from cognitive neuroscience and pain perception in athletes. And another study that I'm also in the works of working on through my connections I've established here at the university is, a ketamine study and its effects on depression. So these are all really great opportunities that, yes, you do have to seek out, but they're here and available. And most researchers on campus and within the university are very open to working with graduate students. So I can speak very highly of my experience here as a graduate student and the opportunities that have been available to me. And I highly recommend it to anyone that is questioning whether they should attend graduate school here in the Department of Psychology at the University of Utah.
Hey everyone, my name is Amy McDonald. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a fourth year grad student in the cognition and neural sciences area working with Dr. David Strayer. And I'm going to talk a little bit about being a queer woman living in Salt Lake City and some of the resources both on campus and in Salt Lake that are available to LGBTQ folks. How my identity as a queer woman was going to impact my experience in grad school and just living in Utah was a huge question I had when I was in your position, deciding whether or not to move here from Los Angeles for grad school. So my girlfriend and I moved here in 2018, and we were both, if I'm being completely honest, very worried about how we'd be treated, and we really geared up to be in an uncomfortable new reality. But I'm so happy to be able to say that Salt Lake City proved us wrong pretty fast. And now we're getting married in a couple months in Utah, which is something I never thought I would ever say in my entire life. But apparently Salt Lake City's in the top 10 cities in America for size of population of the LGBTQ folks, which I would have been totally surprised by before living here, but now it makes total sense after being part of this community for the last 5 years. And what I've really noticed is that because Utah as a whole comes with such a long history of like conservative religious ideals, I feel like Salt Lake City in particular really pushes back even stronger and kind of fights for visibility of queer folks. More often than not, I'd say I enter a restaurant or a bar, coffee shop that has a giant pride flag on display out in the front. We live near the 9th and 9th neighborhood, which we jokingly call the Gayborhood in Salt Lake City, though it's definitely not the only like visibly queer area. But the street that runs right through the middle of it is called Harvey Milk Boulevard. I distinctly remember the first time my family came to visit from California, and they were blown away by how many houses and businesses had pride flags out front. It honestly feels like even more so than where I lived in Los Angeles. And I think it's probably because of that strong, like blatant counterculture in Salt Lake City. We have 2 gay bars, one's Sun Trap, which is like the dancing vibe. Triangles is more chill dive bar vibe. Metro Music Hall hosts drag shows. We have Gay Ski Week, which is something that I love the most. It's basically a 5-day party in Park City, which is about a 30-minute drive from Salt Lake, where different hotels and bars participate in kind of like a ski all day, party all night event for queer folks. It takes place at the end of February, beginning of March, I believe, every year. There are also a ton of like resources and communities that you could be involved in. The LGBT Resource Center on campus has opportunities for scholarships. They have like a student lounge that you can go get some work done in, meet people. And then they also plan and host all the events during Pride Week on campus. I also encourage you to get online and look up the Utah Pride Center and get a feel for some of the resources and events that they have available in town. The Pride Parade and Pride Week in June is one of the most prevalent that I've seen or been to. And I've lived in LA, Boston, and New York. Most or every restaurant in downtown participates and hosts events and like discounted drinks for queer people and whatnot. And it's a massive, really fun parade. So I am grateful I can say that my identity as a queer woman hasn't ever felt like it has held me back or threatened my well-being or safety here living in Salt Lake. I can really only speak to my experience at the University of Utah, especially in the psych department, which is very inclusive and supportive. Can't speak much for, more rural Utah, but I would be happy to chat more with any of you about this. Feel free to contact me directly. Again, my name's Amy McDonald. You can find my email on the psych department webpage, and I hope you decide on the University of Utah.
Hi, my name is Robin. I am a 4th year in the program, and this is McKinley, and he is just over 1.5 years old. I had McKinley in the summer of 2020, which was the summer of my 2nd year. And yeah, it was during COVID, and he came 8 weeks early. So there were a lot of surprises for us, but the department was amazing. Faculty that I didn't even really know, reached out to me with offers of suggestions and support and baby equipment and just like unbelievable support. It was incredibly touching. And the department was also really supportive. Yeah, everybody loved you. And the department was also really wonderful in helping me maintain sort of the minimal level of responsibilities that I needed to stay within the program. So I was able to do like an online teaching position for the summer when I was having him. And when he came early, faculty offered to take over the course for me. The fall after he was born, I was on parental leave, which means that I worked as an RA, but I was also had the opportunity to do an online TA position, so I could maintain my stipend. But I didn't need to take any classes. No, I know. Or do anything else. So it was nice. So that was really wonderful. Also, in terms of, I'm from Canada, so if you're an international student, you have to be on student insurance. But regardless of whether you're international or not, student insurance was wonderful. which I feel like a Canadian saying that means a lot. We had a lot of medical bills with him because of his premature arrival, and the student insurance covered like probably 95% of it. Yeah, in terms of like being a parent in Salt Lake City, COVID has obviously limited some of the things that we would be doing, but there is an incredible amount of stuff, for families and families with little ones, especially in the city. There are, zoos and parks and just all sorts of like family themed things. And even with COVID, there are so many parks for us to go to, so we're always able to get outside. We've met lots of other families just by, going to the local playground or whatever. Yeah, sorry. And yeah, there's a lot of affordable options. Daycare, the university, I apologize for the background noise. The university has some great daycare options for grad students that are pretty affordable. There's also a lot of other options within the city. You do want to try and get on like a wait list sooner than later. But yeah, there's a lot of kids in the city, so there's a lot of options for them. And yeah, I'm trying to think what else would be helpful for you guys to know. Being a parent in grad school is challenging. I will not ever pretend otherwise. But yeah, from what I've heard from other friends of mine in other grad programs, our department has been just, from my perspective and compared to what I've heard from others, our department has just been truly exceptional in supporting myself and other parents, and yeah, it's doable. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Parisa Kaliush. I identify with she, her pronouns. I'm a fifth-year clinical psychology student working with Dr. Sheila Kroll. I study lifespan developmental psychopathology with a particular emphasis on perinatal clinical psychology. In just a moment, I'm going to share a PowerPoint slide with you with information about accessing mental health care as a graduate student in Salt Lake City. The thing is, we enter grad school with our own unique life experiences, our own history, our own identities, and that is going to interact with the highs and lows of graduate school. There's been increasing awareness of mental health difficulties and lived experiences with psychopathology among psychology trainees and faculty. Some research is indicating that rates of psychiatric disorders among this population, among us, is at least similar to that which we see in the general population, sometimes even greater. And the fact of the matter is, as graduate students, we face numerous barriers to accessing mental health care. Some of which include our low stipends, limited insurance coverage, legitimate concern that we may face negative professional consequences for disclosing our experiences. If you're a clinical student, there's concern that your training site is going to overlap with where you'd like to seek treatment. And so I hope that this brief presentation is one small and meaningful step in increasing dialogue around this topic, reducing stigma, and removing some of these barriers. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Okay. On the left, I have QR codes to two really recently published and or in-press articles led by Dr. Sarah Victor out of Texas Tech University. She's been a really prominent figure in this effort to, again, increase awareness, reduce stigma, eradicate barriers among psychologists, including faculty and trainees with lived experiences of psychopathology. On this slide, I have Not an exhaustive list, but hopefully a helpful start to mental health care resources as a grad student in Salt Lake City. The University of Utah Counseling Center and the University of Utah Women's Resource Center. These are sites where, as a clinical student, you may have some overlap with your training, but it has been my experience that the counselors at these two centers are incredibly compassionate, professional, and confidentiality is maintained. What's important to note here at these two sites is that care, including individual and/or group counseling, is often free to students. But even if you're not necessarily seeking individual or support groups, there are drop-in mindfulness sessions, mental health workshops, often which are geared towards students of color or other underrepresented identities. And if you visit their websites, there are other community resources listed as well. I'll note as well at the Women's Resource Center, they specialize in feminist multicultural therapy for those who identify as woman and or femme. The Safe UT app is an app that everyone should have on their phone. This is 24/7, 365 access to crisis counselors at the local Huntsman Mental Health Institute. There's a tip line as well in case you would like to provide information about others. But yeah, this is just immediate care and support right on an app in your phone. If you are interested in seeking resources outside of the University of Utah, the LGBTQ+ Affirmative Therapist Guild of Utah and the ABCT Find a CBT Therapist Directory, a lot of acronyms there. These are two really great resources to locate therapists in Utah that either explicitly identify as LGBTQ+ affirmative or have been certified in cognitive behavioral therapy. You often can search based on location. You can search based on your insurance coverage, which is awesome. The last one I have listed is Open Path Psychotherapy Collective. This is affordable in-person and or online psychotherapy. I personally have had positive experiences with this center or this organization, which is why I wanted to share it with you. I hope that this brief presentation is helpful. I am a resource for you. Feel free to email me if you have any other questions. I would like to leave you with something that really moved me from the second article that I have listed, Leveraging the Strengths of Psychologists with Lived Experiences. These are a list of guiding assumptions and beliefs to promote respectful dialogue around a topic, seeking mental health care, that can be quite vulnerable sometimes. And so I'll leave you with these assumptions. Lived experience of psychopathology, including psychopathology characterized as severe, is not an insurmountable barrier to success in academic psychology. Lived experience of psychopathology is neither necessary nor sufficient to provide effective clinical care, be an effective mentor, or conduct rigorous research. One's lived psychopathology experience may or may not relate to their clinical or research expertise. Disclosure of psychopathology should not be expected or coerced among psychologists. Lived experience of psychopathology may bias a psychologist's practice or research, just as all aspects of a person's identity and life experiences do. And finally, experiences of psychopathology among psychologists vary tremendously. Congrats on making it through the application process. It is not easy. I hope that you are proud of yourself. And again, I hope this brief presentation is helpful, and feel free to reach out, email me with any questions.